I think that's everything except for item number 9, proposed expansion of the fire career staffing study. Carolyn McCreary.
Good evening. Thank you. At the August 25th Board of Supervisors public meeting, the board discussed the merits of having a third-party independent consultant evaluate the plan brought forth by Chief Wigman and also to review other options. It was also suggested that a comprehensive study of fire operations be conducted. Consensus of the majority was to obtain quotes, with the board voting 4-1 to do so and to report back. I reached out to 3 firms and explained the scope of the work to be done to help the board arrive at a decision during the 2026 budget preparations. The firms that were contacted are Aspirant Consulting Group, LLC, the Center for Public Safety Management, and Municipal Resources, Inc. When I realized after our last meeting that we're going to have 2 meetings in September, I gathered the information and wanted to bring forward tonight so that the board could actually decide if you still want to move forward with the study, see what the parameters are, and then make a decision as to what firm, if any, you would be appointing. So I also gave you a summary that should be in front of each of you just to make it easier to look at all 3. Aspirant Consulting Group gave a quote of $16,500 to $23,450 with a not to exceed $25,000. The study would take 6 to 8 weeks once they begin. The Center for Public Safety Management gave a quote of $47,560. They said it would take 3 to 6 months, including any presentations with stakeholders, and they could begin immediately. Municipal Resources, Inc. gave a quote of $25,000 plus travel and expenses. They would need an initial data dump from Chief Wigman, followed by a site visit, and they can push up the process. They originally stated they would be able to start mid to late October. However, knowing that we have the budget season coming up, they said they would put together a team and start in September if they were chosen. So the first question tonight before the board is if you still want to move forward with the study. And then the second question would be with a motion to which of the 3 firms you would be willing to appoint. I've spoken to 2. I've had extensive email communications with the principal from Aspirant Consulting. I believe all 3 could do the job that you're looking for. The scope of the work was outlined right now solely to look at staffing, because if we start looking at buildings and we start talking even broader about regional, you're talking months of a study and at a significantly higher cost. So I gave all 3 of them specific scope that we're looking at the options, staying as is and sort of hoping that things work out, moving forward with Chief Wigman's proposal to hire 19 full-time career firefighters, or to somehow phase it, if not what had been proposed as a third, and a third, some other variation of it.
Did Municipal Resources, by any chance, just share how long it would take? You said that.
So initially they had said they could start mid to late October, and then the longer we talked, he said he felt he could put the team together and be able to start this month.
But he didn't say how long.
No, he did not.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. He said 60 days for, 60 days for staffing transition, which is what we're talking about. If we went for a full study, that would be 120 days. And just a reminder, we have to have an adopted budget in place by the end of the year. We typically have our budget presentation to the board at your first meeting in November. We would still be able to do that, even if, and I know some of the board members were, remiss about hearing it, but it is not impossible to have 3 fire budgets available. It's not like it affects all the other funds. So we're grateful for that. It's not like it affects the general fund, which then affects how much we can transfer to the capital fund or how much we need for debt service. We would solely be looking at the fire fund, and it would not be, I have a very good staff, and I have an excellent finance director. We'd be able to put this together if that's what we needed to do. I don't want to tie their hands with an unrealistic expectation. If they need through the end of October, that's what it would have to be, and we would have to work around that.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up.
Well, allow me to jump right in. So first of all, I want to say thank you so much, Caroline, for pulling this together. This is really helpful, and it's great to see, the side-by-side comparison with these different options outlined. And I honestly would be comfortable with any of the options, with the exception that I think what we wanted was for some independent review prior to this budget cycle so that we can seriously consider whether, and how to move forward with this expansion. So I would say that my preference would be for one of the top two on the list, aspirant or MRI, and I would say I probably lean a little bit more toward MRIs solely because I know that they worked with Upper Marion. I spoke with the township manager in Upper Marion, who was very happy and pleased with the service that they provided. So that I guess would be, my preference, but either one of those two options I think would be good for us.
I'll go next. I will go next, and I'm still against it. I had a chance over the last 2 weeks to talk to Chief a lot more about the details, and he was able to make me feel even more comfortable. Reason for that was that members of the PA Career Fire Chiefs Association had the opportunity to review his plan and provide feedback and insight. Suggestions have been included in the plan, and I just was gonna, for the public record, Chief, can you tell us what some of those recommendations are and how you implemented or changed your plan to use them?
Sure. They wanted to make sure that I included SR6 in the opening part of the plan to explain the issue with the decline in volunteerism in the United States and in Pennsylvania specifically, and what those recommendations were. So that was included in the opening of the plan. They did express some concern about continuing with the use of part-time firefighters and per diem firefighters to fill the gap when career firefighters were unavailable, just because they felt that at times, part-timers could be unreliable. They're not training every day with our firefighters, and we've already worked really hard. We have a small core group of part-timers that are very reliable, and we keep it small so that everybody has the opportunity to work towards each other and know each other. Because as we spoke about, firefighting is a team sport, and you need to be able to predict each other's moves and know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And they just wanted me to make sure that I took a good look at all aspects of the fire department and took an opportunity to articulate my concerns and my plan as to not only to provide a problem but also to the solution that was based in the acceptable practices for the fire service today.
My opinion is just that these are local PA fire chiefs trained. They're local. They, in my mind, know more about what we need than, say, a stranger who is from Virginia or, one of these other places that they're from. So I'm still against paying for any of these studies.
And I guess I'll echo you as well. I'm against paying any more money out for these studies when looking at even these phases that were listed in one of the proposals. Chief has done all of this work, and what they're going to be asking us for is all of Chief's work so they can further analyze, and he lives and breathes this. I'm not up for spending the money and getting these studies done. I'm ready to go with Chief's plan.
Well, I think the plan that we have in place, or that's proposed right now, is a solid plan. I'm sure it's been well thought out. I think that one thing that we don't have is a set of fresh eyes onto it. I think that an investment in having someone looking at the best practices of places, not just here in Montgomery County, but also in other places of that are also, again, you mentioned this is something that's happening not just here in Pennsylvania and just in Montgomery County, but all throughout the country. Why not look at some of the solutions that have been proposed in other places so that we can
take those best practices and implement them here again to ensure the best plan is in place for the firefighters, and for our residents and our taxpayers. So when I compared these different groups, it seemed to me, again, I spoke to some people again in Upper Marion, who the assistant chief there, who they went through a substantial increase in their staffing, and they used MRI. They found that it was definitely a return on their investment, was positive. I don't think this is something that will slow us down, but it will make us better. So if we can do that, I think that we can show that and grow the confidence of our taxpayers by saying that, yes, we are doing due diligence, not just putting a plan in place because it seems to fit what we see. What we don't see is what we want to look at. So that's why I would think that we would want to put some money towards that.
Do you know if, or does anyone know when Upper Marion went through this, were they, did they have any career fire initially, or were they, when they started this whole process? Do you know?
I believe they were a combination. Do you know that, Chief?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
If
apologize.
they were a combination, or were they full volunteer initially, or were they a combination?
Upper Marion, I mean, they were volunteer, then they transitioned. I'm not sure at what point they had the fire service study done. In that, I know that they currently have the public safety director is in charge of the fire department, and Chief Johnson is in charge of the fire department. The public safety director oversees all fire and EMS.
Mhm.
I'm not sure who the assistant chief was. I know they have 3 deputies. But yeah, I'm not sure when that all went down.
Okay. So one of the things that I was able to do was, albeit not related to fire, spoke to 2 unrelated consultants, just asking, giving a high level overview of what it is we're trying to do here, and where would be the value add to have a consultant come in. And so the question that first got asked of me is, oh, okay, are you creating something new in your area? And I said, well, it's new to the extent of, we're going to or would like to go to all career, versus we currently have a small group of career 1 that does, each day. And they're like, okay, so you're expanding what you have. You have a full-time complement already. You're expanding on that. So it's an expansion. And so I had 2 consultants that said to me, albeit not municipal consultants, that or fire consultants, one has fire all within their family, but they didn't see where it was needed, because not where it was needed, because you're expanding what you have. So to have a consultant come in and say you're going to need more uniforms, or you're going to need more hats, or you're going to need, they struggled with, I don't know if it's the best use of dollars. And they're like, and I'm a consultant, I want to make money where we can make money at, but I don't know that, and do you have all the faith in your chief to, I said, the plan appears to be solid. I'm no expert, of course. So that kind of hit me, in a different way, meaning, I know we've been using the word fire expansion. I'm like, yeah, okay, we are expanding on what we currently have in place. So, I also personally feel like we have, one of the best, if not the best, that, has reached out to counterparts and reached out to other areas on what's here's my plan, what have you done differently that maybe we should incorporate? What should we take out? What are we doing too much of or not enough of? I'm confident all those questions got asked. I do also know, having talked to our community, our residents, we all are not going to make everyone happy as much as I want to. I have sitting here right now 2 letters, one that was left here on our desk. I guess they hand delivered it. And then I was over at a neighbor's house actually getting signatures for our other project we're working on. And he wanted to come to the meeting. And he said, well, I'll type up a letter and, will you read it on my behalf at the, so one saying, wants to actually nix the whole thing, to be quite honest. The one letter that was left for us doesn't even want to do the fire expansion. And then one that was focused on, because that was the conversation we were having around the consulting that was, has had the opportunity to be at one of the meetings with Chief, felt confident, and their son is a firefighter in another state, felt confident that he's answering all the questions, that he's done the due diligence around this project. So my point being, I'm not going to make everybody happy as much as I want to, as much as we probably all want to. So we just have to try to make the best decision. I am leaning more towards, I don't see the value add. I don't see the value add in doing this. I feel as if, I know I have spent an enormous amount of time talking to Chief, and I feel as if the due diligence has been done. Are we going to bump into bumps in the road if this gets approved? I'm confident we will. That's just the nature of the beast. But, do we have the right people in place to get us over those bumps? I'm confident we do. So that's kind of where I'm at. But we've got a couple of folks. I don't know if anyone has any comment, questions.
Part of this.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Hello, my name. I can talk about it. Okay. Thank you. My name's Homer Lozardo. I live at 119 Embassy Drive in Montgomery Crossing. I've attended some of the other sessions that were informational. Partly, I'm here to discuss why you need to go to the consultants. Y'all admit y'all are not experts. You're relying on the fire chief. Fire chief has done a great job in proposing something. The job of a consultant is to give you options. In the information that I have requested and Carolyn has provided, Bill's provided me, my wife and I have gone through a rough analysis, and this is what a consultant would do. And basically what you're proposing with 19 firefighters, we can do with a smaller staff if we work a 24-48 shift instead of the 24-72. What does that gain you? It gains you $700,000 in savings. So if I publicize that out to the community and you say, we just went ahead and did it, you're going to get some blowback very easily, because then you will have not done your job in looking at what other options, how could you phase it? The proposals that consultants sent you covered a broad variety. CPSM, and I believe one other gave you somewhere in the 45,000. That basically gives you a master plan. That is something that you can bank and look at, because they will look at the totality of the situation rather than just focus on, let's add 19 people. They will look at, where's the community growing? Where do we really need the fire stations? Do we have them in the wrong spot? We say we have Battalion 2, which I think is over at Pinecrest, which may not be the most advantageous, but when we discussed it at the kind of public service meeting last week, we said the general consensus was, no, we don't need another fire station. We've got enough, but could we consolidate down to one? And if so, where would we do that? Would that be a better option? That's obviously large capital dollars and goes through the whole planning process again. But overall, I think you have to take a hard look at other options. Your contract currently allows you to do part-time firefighters. Why aren't we looking at that? Could we get some relief for the fire department now and put that in the 26 budget? Bring on half dozen part-time people to relieve the overtime burden. These are things that a consultant does and looks at. You give them the data, they understand what are the needs, what are the timing of the needs, not just we're going to put it all in and we've got 30 years of coverage and not have to think about it again. Because I guarantee you, you're going to have to do something else. You're going to have to replace a firehouse. You're going to have to buy more equipment, which is routine. But when you go through and look at the numbers from the wages and everything else, they don't add up to what y'all are proposing. For instance, When I look at the salaries that are proposed in 26, it goes from 1.8 million to 1.9 million, and then from 1.9 million to 2.1 million. Those are 6.9 and 7.5% increases. According to the contract, you're paying out a 10% increase. So why are we using 6.9 and 7.5%? This is where the consultant would go through and really look at what the hard numbers are, do a return on investment. And I granted it's public safety and you can never put a price on it. But at some point there is a diminishing return, because if we were going to do this approach, then we should probably hire 25 police officers and stage them at all the different locations and catch speeders and help bring money into the township. So everything has to be looked at. And that's what the consultants do, is they basically start with a clean slate, look at the whole scope of what it is you want to do, what's the best plan for it, and what are the options. You could still wind up with the 19 if you decide you want to go that. And then you can tell the community, we looked at all these other options, we discounted them because of this. And then the community probably buys in a little bit easier versus we're putting 19 in and don't want to have to think about it again. It's something that you have to do in a business approach. Business, basically, if I had this approach and for my projects when I did them, God, my life would have been so much easier. I would not have to have justified everything. This is something that's very important. Now, granted, there's not a whole lot of people here to discuss this, but you do have a responsibility to look at the numbers and not just say, yeah, I want to do it. Yeah, there's a lot of things I want to do, but I have a budget and I have to maintain that budget, same as you do. So my approach in looking at it, I like the CPSM proposal. Granted, it's the most expensive, but when I read through the proposal, it answers all the questions, all the options, all the different things that we may not have considered in the 19 new firefighters. It gives you a broader based approach, and that's part of what you should be looking at in the community. Is this plan really going to get us down the road where we need to be?
I'm sorry, which one did you say you like?
CPSM, I
The
believe.
middle. The middle
It's the
one.
big long
Okay.
one.
The middle one, yeah.
The other proposals, if you go with the smaller proposal, it's just looking at one facet of it, and it doesn't look at the whole picture. And I think you really should look at the whole picture. You can discount the rest of it afterwards, but at least you have a framework of like, hey, okay, if we're putting together a 10 or 20-year plan for the community, you can start building that in. And this is why. You'll reevaluate it when it comes time to say, hey, should we still do this? Does this make sense? It may not. The community could have changed. Who knows? I'm not sure about the laws here. Communities annex one another. Down in Texas, they annex people all the times. They did. So municipalities got rolled into things. I don't know that you can do that here, but it's something to think about, because you've got to think about the future. And that's what this is really looking at. It's the future of the community. But you've also got to look at the here and now. It is a huge increase, and it's not, and while it is a huge increase, it's an expansion. It's a big step expansion if you jump to the 19. And the part you have to think about is it's not just the 19 as a one time, it's the increased revenue consumption year on year in. Every 4 years, you're going to renegotiate that contract. And right now, as the contract was, you had a 10%, a 10%, a 4.5%, and a 4.25%. I would have loved to have gotten 10% raises in my work environment. 3% was about the best. If you were really gung ho and really did a great attaboy job, yeah, you might get a 4 and a 4.5%. So it is a very lucrative job. The benefits seem very large, but when I look at the benefits, which were, if on a standard $80,000 salary, it was $70,000 in benefits. I got to think 30% of that is going to be health insurance and other stuff. Some of it may be the bunker gear that is required as part of the service in the contract, but I can't tell that. And that's why the consultant would break that out in a detailed level. So it's very transparent to everybody. When I first came up here and I looked at it and saw 19,000 divided, 19 firefighters divided it into the $3 million and got a salary of $159,000. Yeah, I'll go sign up for that. Who wouldn't? But when we start digging down, it's like, oh, well, the salaries are 80,000 for a firefighter. It's higher for a battalion chief, and then it higher for, I forget the third designation, captain, I think. But you have to get to that. You got to peel the onion back, as everybody says, and really dig in and understand the detailed levels of this. That helps the people in the community understand. Yeah, okay, I understand it's for the firefighting gear and stuff. Okay, how often does that have to be replaced? Is it every 1 year? Is it every 3 years? Okay, there's another ongoing cost. That's where the community has to understand and be able to buy into it. So just dismissing a consultant because, oh, we don't need to spend that money. It's money you're going to get back because you're going to get information and you're going to get knowledge that you don't know right now. All you know is whether or not you're going to put 19 firefighters at the firehouse. That's it. So I would implore the board to reevaluate and rethink the desire. The time frame may not work, which is usually the problem we always have with where you've got a budget, but there are ways to create a fund of some sort to where you might be able to do something, not the full 19, but you put in some type of 6 or 10, come up with a number, whatever, but you create funds so you can move forward. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to do this, you're going to get a result in 26, which means you're going to start in 27. Doesn't help the fire department with their ongoing situation right now. We've got to come up with something that will help relieve the burden for them now. And even if you do it in 26, 19 doesn't seem to be the right answer when I can come up with a solution that's $700,000 cheaper and provides the coverage that you're going to get with 2472 under the 19 proposal. So that's my public comment regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And please know, we're not, voting on the budget tonight or voting whether this is, it's just, okay. I just want to make sure that that was clear, that the conversation is around the, whether or not we move forward with the consultant. And even if we say we're not moving or we are moving forward with the consultant, when budget comes, we may still say no to this whole thing. So just know that we're not voting on the plan itself yet. Any comments or anyone else? Any comments, questions? Go ahead. You're shaking your head though.
No, I'm just,
Oh, I thought you shaking your head like you had something else. Go ahead.
So I just want to applaud and thank you for taking so much time to really dig into the detail here and come and make public comment. It's refreshing, and I wish we had more people here because it's an important conversation that we should be having. And from my perspective, as a supervisor, I know that my job is to make sure that we're making smart decisions. Hence the title supervisor. That's our role. We have to ask these hard questions, and it's no disservice to our staff who come forward with these proposals. And clearly, there's been a lot of good work that's been put into the proposal that's before us now. But I had this conversation with Chief Wegman up front and said that I would be asking a lot of hard questions. Didn't I, Chief? And that's what we have to do. That's our responsibility. That's what we're elected to do. And when I look at the plan, I think that there are a lot of unanswered questions still and some discrepancies too that I think having fresh eyes on this plan would help us to iron out. There's, call volume discrepancies. Our annual report says for 2024, we had 908 calls, yet the website says 1,615. So, why is there a discrepancy there? There's no definition. And so when we're looking at the numbers, I want to make sure that there's clarity around those numbers. Again, this is something a consultant can come in and help us identify. Call surge, we saw increases of 789 incidences in 2023 and up to 908 now in 2024, but most of those are related to electrical equipment problems, which don't necessarily, these aren't fire calls, they don't require the same sort of response. Now, I would love to have, a third party in-person person come and sort of explain the nuances there for us and what the real needs are. When you look at the timing of, the volunteer responses and that the fact that they're the worst on the weekends. And we haven't made any provisions for addressing those needs now, in what could be done now, with increasing stipends, et cetera. Those are things that, a consultant can take a look at and formulate plans to address and potentially give us some stopgap solutions before we actually go through this whole hiring process and onboarding people, so that we ensure that we have the coverage and the response times necessary to effectively protect the community. And I just don't see that being addressed. And I understand that there's a lot of fatigue associated with this, which is another reason why we should avail ourselves of the resources, these independent resources, additional members to the team, who, based on their experience and their expertise around this particular area, can come in and, again, just bring a fresh perspective. Sometimes you can be too close to something to really see all the opportunities. And, in my world, I work with a lot of small business owners, and we run into things all the time, and it's called head trash. You know what head trash is? It's a belief. It's a belief that you have built up based on your experience that may not actually reflect reality, but you believe it to be true. And someone else comes in and they kind of scratch on that, and they test that, and they stress test your assumptions, your beliefs. And that's sometimes the best possible scenario, because that's how you uncover opportunity to make improvements and enhancements. And so it's no disrespect to you, or to the work, the incredible work that you've put into this proposal. We want to make sure that we are assigning all the necessary resources to make sure that we have a solid plan in place. And that is the goal in bringing in a consultant here. It's not to challenge you, it's not to question you, it's to help you, help the department, help our township provide better services to our constituents long term. That's what it is. And I think it's, given the magnitude of this change, absolutely worth the investment in bringing in those additional resources to assign to this project, because this is a generational change. This is enormous, and there's no turning back from it. It's permanent. You have those 19 people, and now all of a sudden, we have all the expenses also associated with those 19 people. And I don't feel that we have adequately planned and projected all the expenses associated with that, or communicated that clearly to the public. And that's another factor of this that really needs to be fleshed out more thoroughly, so that we can transparently say, this is what it will cost in year 1, and then in years 2 through 10. And just, for further clarification on that point, I took a look at our capital investment plan that was just published. We did this in 2023, right when we were about to raise taxes then to fund our capital projects. And we went, the capital investment plan really maps out department by department all of the different capital projects that we were forecasting through 2028. Our finance director at the time provided us with a really helpful tool to help us calculate how much any particular millage increase would generate in terms of revenue, to offset those projected costs through 2028. And at the time, what we figured was that a 0.45 mil increase would generate about $853,000 per year in additional revenue, which wasn't sufficient to get us through at least 2026 in terms of the revenue it would generate. But in that plan, in the fire department plan, there's no reference to this particular initiative, this expansion that will have other costs associated with it in terms of equipment, and then ultimately facilities as well. So those costs aren't calculated. And we knew those funds were going to run out anyway. So what my point is that this proposal doesn't live in a vacuum, in a silo unto itself. It's one department as a part of a bigger whole. And we already knew that we were going to have to increase taxes again when those funds ran out just for capital projects. And that doesn't include any other initiative that might come out of another department besides fire. So I just feel as if we've kind of got blinders on looking at the projected costs for, this particular expansion of 19 and the 1.4 mil increase. I really think is just the tip of the iceberg. And we need to study this more. And again, I think a consultant is a great way to add the resources to our team so that we can really thoroughly vet this, do the proper forecasting, and share that information with our public.
Janine Hurry, 108 Tudor Drive in Montgomery Crossing. I've lived here since '98. Tanya, I couldn't agree with you more, and also with what Homer said. And to add to what the consultants might bring is what is beyond Montgomery Township. What about regionalization of the fire departments? You mentioned Upper Marion. What about Lansdale? What about Horsham? What are the other community fire departments in the area doing, and how do we work with them to help lower cost overall for Montgomery County?
Thank you.
So I think the topic of regionalization has come up a number of times at our meetings. People have mentioned it. I mean, it's something that I think probably everyone or a lot of people think is truly the answer in a lot of ways. It's just a matter of who are the folks to make that happen. It's too many chiefs in the kitchen, I guess, is a good statement right now. It's I don't believe it's something that's going to happen now. Unfortunately, to be quite honest. And, we just have to look at what we have and where we're going. One of the things, Tanya, that you said, I'm always a believer in a fresh pair of eyes on things. I do also believe just the nature of this work that they do, the folks that live and breathe it every single day, they know it better than any consultant's going to come in and tell them. And oh, by the way, their day is different. It's far different than corporate America, what we're talking about here. The number of fires you mentioned. I've only been hearing the 900 and something number. I did not hear a 1,600 number, so I don't know where.
It's on the website.
1,600 is the total over the 2.5 years. So 16 was the total. And the website reflects that in 2022, there were 760 responses. In 2023, there were 789. In 2024, there was 908.
I know, that's what I knew.
Right.
The
And that was
900
the
something.
data points used for the study.
Okay. So, I wish we could all sit and say when a fire is going to happen or what kind of fire it's going to be. And, on all of that stuff, we can't. And one of the things that, if you looked at anyone, we lived and breathed it, that first meeting, we were here for 2 hours, I would say 2 hours and 12 minutes or 2 hours and 21 minutes. We talked, it was Chief sharing with us the first time the issue, something that he has seen building now for a few years. So it's not like something just he woke up last night and said, let's put this together. It's something that, now just really needed to come forward because it's significant. So that also stands out for me that, it's not something that just happened yesterday and now we're trying to, band-aid it or anything. If we go with a consultant and they craft everything out and write everything out, having worked with many a consultant and many proposals that have been presented, some of the things you may implement, a lot of the things you won't, or a lot of it will already be there because Chief's already done it, and in working with his counterparts that are doing this already or in the middle of moving towards it. So, one of the things that and this is pertaining, which is why I definitely want to bring it up. It's specific to, do we work with a consultant? And this is, I'll say, a neighbor that did have an opportunity to go to one of the meetings that was specific to Montgomery Walk Development. We had one there. We had one across the street at Neshaminy Falls, and then we had the one here. And so he couldn't make it tonight. His name is Bruce Whiteman. He did want this to be read. He asked, we were talked about it as recent as this evening. Actually went over there for an unrelated reason. And he asked what was going to be on the agenda tonight. And I told around fire. And I shared with him that it was going to be on whether or not we work with a consultant. And he said he wanted me to read this. Audrey, per our conversation this evening, since due to a business call, I cannot attend the meeting this evening. Please read the statement below that I would say in person if I could attend. Concerning the item of deciding to hire a consultant to research the effectiveness and cost of moving our township to paid full-time career positions for firemen, captains, and battalion chiefs, it is in my opinion that spending this amount of money is something we should not do. I attended the resident meeting held at Montgomery Walk on August 13th, and having a son who is a full-time fireman in Illinois and rose to the level of lieutenant, I have a fairly good understanding of how paid full-time fire departments work, at least more than the average resident. Chief Wegman did a great job presenting the plan the township is considering moving forward with, and answered all of the questions without hesitation. Because of this, I, as a Montgomery Township resident, have a full confidence in not only his knowledge and experience, but feel he is connected well enough with other fire departments in the area that he can mostly do the same job researching and providing the same information that hiring a consulting firm would do, and save the expense that a consulting firm would take from our budget. Thank you for listening to my statement, even though I could not attend in person. His name is Bruce Whiteman. And then also, we did have on our desk, like I mentioned earlier, this is more specific. It is a resident that is wants us really kind of to nix the whole thing versus this is a reject the whole fire department expansion proposal versus specific to tonight's conversation, which is around consulting. So I don't want to say the person's name just because I didn't check with them if it was okay to do so, but they are not in favor of, but it's only fair, I should read it. Resident Montgomery Township since 1978 and a former volunteer firefighter, writing to urge, even beg, you to reject the proposal by the fire chief and township manager to invoke a huge tax increase on the township citizens. The proposal will put a strain on taxpayer finances in what is already a highly inflationary environment. Taxpayers who are senior citizens and on fixed incomes would be particularly hard hit. Consider that based on the township manager's figures, the tax increase would eat up a significant portion of the estimated Social Security increase for 2026 after income taxes. My homeowner's insurance premium increased 18.2% without me even having filed a claim. That leaves nothing to pay, likely county tax and school tax. That leaves nothing to pay, likely county tax and school tax increases. I'll withhold my rent on school taxes, I will too, and nothing for cost of living inflationary increases. In addition, as you are aware, the tax increase would not hold going forward. The proposal only addresses the first year. I believe that a long-term analysis or plan would clearly demonstrate that so I am glad I'm reading this because it does say that, talk a little bit about it. I believe that a long-term analysis or plan would clearly demonstrate that the fire department proposal would take an even deeper bite out of taxpayers each successive year. Taxing authorities and budget generators seem to love the idea of compounding tax increases, but also always seem to downplay them. I noticed in the Run report on the FDMT website that the category of electrical problems increased from 38 in 2022 and 33 in 2023 to 289 in 2024. What caused this increase? And how many firefighters are dispatched to those calls? I also question how many taxpayers know about this proposal and likely be blindsided if the proposal is adopted. Finally, if it is felt the current system of mutual aid won't work in the future, would it not be prudent for the township to develop a dialogue at the supervisors level with the surrounding township for a more formed, combined volunteer fire department structure? I believe it's worth pursuing before pushing a huge tax increase on taxpayers. In this time of skyrocketing costs, the board should be looking for ways to lower the burden, not raise them. Please reject the fire department expansion proposal. So that was another letter that we received.
If I could add some additional comments with regard to the consultants. First off, the consultants are based on what you are looking for and how well you vet those consultants. Some consultants will tell you what you want to hear. Others will tell you the hard truth. And those are the ones you want. You may not like the answer, but doesn't mean you have to abide by it. It's another set of eyes looking at it and giving you options that are out there. And this is something that even if you spent the $50,000 on the consultancy, that consultant, if they save you $100,000 off of what you were going to spend at $2.8 million, you got your money back. You also wound up with a plan for the future. Not a piece of paper that you can just go and put in the shredder or put on the bookshelf. You have something tangible that you can use. So that's a thing that you can take back to the consultants and ask them, what have you typically been able to do for other municipalities when you've gone and done this type of a study? What have you saved them from spending? If they're really good, they pay their way back. If they're not, then that's not the consultant that you really should be going after. With regard to the letter that was read, it's like, yeah, I had questions as well as to why are we seeing so many false alarms, so many other things that are taking our resources. Are we charging our businesses for false alarms? If not, hey, there's a money stream, because I had that same issue where I worked. I was in charge of the facilities. We got 3 false alarms. They started charging us, and guess what? We fixed our problem because we didn't want to keep paying the fine for false alarms. So those are things that the consultants will look at. It's like, gee, why do you have so many of these types of calls? You really need to be going out on EMS assist or a police assist with the fire department. That's one of the categories that in the call logs that could use a little bit more detail. So there's a lot more to this whole situation, and that's what the consultants will look at. If you look through the proposals, they ask you for the raw data so they can go through and they can ask those questions. Well, what does this mean? Why is it bundled this way? That's what we really need to get into, because we may find that, yeah, we get those calls. They don't need to go to the fire department. That relieves the burden, because now they're not getting calls in the middle of the night for false alarms or things that really aren't fire related. So those are the additional comments I had. Thank you.
I think when you get a call, Chief, I'm directing this to you. When you get a call, I mean, as you stated at every meeting we had so far, that you guys get all the calls. Try to get all the calls.
Yeah, we're dispatched through the 911 center. That we don't determine that. And we also do have a township ordinance where we can cite people for 3 nuisance alarms in a row. We just issued a citation to a business in town. And our fire inspection program, the inspections we do has significantly cut down on our false alarms calls over the years. So
The other thing I want to make sure we're aware of, that this is an investment. These consultants are an investment that often end up with savings overall. So yes, it's an investment of money. It's also an investment in time and some effort involved, because we have to provide them some background information. But they are also experts in public safety. They have probably done this numerous times in other areas and probably can provide us something that will save us more than what we're spending on their services, which is why they persist. Like, why do consultants exist? It's because they provide value. It's not because it's just an expense. So I want people to, when you look at this, you say, well, how could we spend that much money? That just seems like money down the drain, and then we're just going to waste time and they're going to tell us what we already know. I disagree. They offer so much more insight. They will sometimes tell you, like you said, the hard truths that sometimes we didn't see.
And it's not because we were ignorant to it. It's just because we didn't know it. And that maybe someone else has made a mistake that we can learn from. And that's what I'm all about in life, is saying, okay, there are mistakes that are made. I don't want to do this on the taxpayers' dime. We have to make sure that we are proving to them that this, yes, we had a really great proposal put forward for, I think you called it the Cadillac, like you wanted the whole shebang. Do we need the whole shebang, or are there other, are there some other things out there that maybe would provide us similar, but maybe we can look at some of the other things like scheduling. We can look at regionalization. I know that's something we can't implement on our own, but I will say I also heard you say there wasn't an appetite for this. Well, I've talked to other supervisors in the North Penn area. They do have an appetite for it, but it's not from your end. Like, no one from the fire department wants it necessarily, because they have their system in place. But I'm telling you, there is an appetite for this, because it is a huge problem, not just for Montgomery Township. It's for areas all throughout. So it's probably going to be something that has to be brought down from above. It won't be something that we're going to self-impose upon ourselves, but it might be people that are sitting in these chairs making the hard decisions, making sure we are being responsible, bringing the best proposals together, and not just saying, well, you know what, this is something that was put in front of us, and let's just say yes because it's easier than taking a harder look at what the other options are. So not easy. No one wants to sacrifice safety in any manner. That's why we're here, but we are also here for a fiduciary. We have to be responsible for that. And for that, we need transparency. We need expertise. We need other opinions and other eyes on this to make sure that we're doing the best thing we can do for the fire service, for the community, and for our taxpayers.
So I feel like we can disagree and talk about this all night. We certainly have all the answers. Chief can give any further answers that there are. I mean, at this point, is there someone that wants to make a motion?
Make a motion on whether or not we move forward on it?
Correct. I feel
No, I'm not ready to make a motion. So I want to, because there was just one of the things, I will be honest, the one that you're recommending, I didn't look at it deeply enough, because it was the biggest figure there, and that was already off my radar, to be very honest and transparent. So I want to go back and look more at this. So I am not ready to make a motion. I need to research this a little bit more. That's where I'm at. I will definitely, and I don't know, Carolyn, and Sean, you might be able to have to answer this. At some point, maybe we say a specific day, definitely before our next meeting, we need to make a decision. And so I don't know if we can do that one at a time to you, or if it's something that, can we call a impromptu meeting? I don't know, but I am not ready to make a decision
I
right now.
think in the interest of continued transparency, I'm not comfortable with polling the board behind the scenes
Okay.
individually.
Okay.
And this
That's
is a
fair.
Sean question, though. I don't know under Robert's Rules of Order if any of the supervisors, you might not be ready to make a motion, but that doesn't preclude, I believe, somebody else from making a
Okay.
motion and seconding it.
Okay.
You might not be prepared to vote yes, but Sean, you'll have to correct me.
No, that's correct.
fair.
And your other question is, the board can always schedule a special meeting if they wanted to on this, or, wait to your next regular scheduled meeting, but you can always schedule a special meeting just for this issue.
You can, and if we wait 2 weeks, you're
That's 2 months
pushing,
out.
if you
I
do
got
decide to do a study, you've now pushed us probably into November past when we're going to present the budget. So, and it's also, I think, going to make it more difficult to try to be working on a budget while at the same time working with a consultant, to help them and give them any data they want, if that's the board's direction. We were really hoping that tonight we would get some consensus in the form of a motion as to whether we're moving forward with the study or not, because if you say move forward with the study, I would reach out to that consultant tomorrow morning and say, you were awarded this project, what are the next steps? And then Bill and I would start producing whatever data along with Blaine that they need, on their end. But if we wait 2 weeks,
No, I don't want to wait. I definitely
if we
don't
have
wanna
a
wait 2
special
weeks.
meeting, again, we would properly advertise it. We could put it on the website, but your concern has always been about residents being aware. I don't know that people will be paying attention to that you're going to have a special meeting solely to discuss this. So those are just the considerations.
I feel like it should be at the next public meeting. I hate to push things and make you have more to do during budget, but I do feel it should be at a regularly scheduled.
That's
public
fine. We
meeting
will
so
put it
that-
on that agenda, and that'll be, we'll try to frame it so that that's this, I don't want to say the sole part of the meeting, but that would be the bulk of the meeting, would be to decide that we'll try to keep other things that might take more of a discussion off that agenda.
So if you wanted to do, if that's what the board wanted to do, you can make a motion to table it to the next agenda. That would be the proper, the agenda of the
I
next.
mean, unless
the next
somebody else wants to
supervisors
make a
meeting. That'd be
motion
the
to
proper
vote on this now.
procedural way to do it.
Yes.
Unless somebody wants to make a motion to vote on it now, correct, Sean?
Yes, everyone, you're free to make a motion on it now if you want to as well.
I just have another comment, and I think it's relevant to say that our board is sort of split on this issue, not just related to a consultant or not a consultant, but the plan as it stands, especially without the benefit of a consultant. And so our board's going to look different come January. And I think that this proposal, these consultants have the opportunity to provide those of us who have some reservations about the plan as it's been presented with greater confidence around it, so that come January, we'll fully embrace the rollout. But not going into that the budget process with the confidence that we have a really solid plan in place, I don't know that I'm going to feel any differently about this come January. I think this is an important investment to make in this plan to provide us with the necessary confidence to move forward with this initiative.
I'm sorry, Tanya, can I just ask him for clarity? You said you don't know that you'll feel different about it come January. I think we have a solid plan. I think our chief has presented us a solid plan. I know for a fact we have to do something. We know that. I think the plan he has presented is a very solid plan. I think that a consulting firm coming in is going to probably show that it's a solid. I honestly feel very strongly that it's probably going to show it's a solid plan, or the majority of it is a solid plan. They might tweak this, that, or the other. And then you have as you refer to it, a year 1, 2, 3, 4 plan to look at down the road. But I have all the confidence that the plan that has been presented, but is a good one. I just also know that we represent the voice of the community. And so we have our community saying, no, do this. And then we have others that say, no, don't do it. So that's where we have to balance it and figure out what makes the most sense. But I have no doubt that the plan that's been presented before us is a solid one. Based on, all of the work I know just in my conversations with Chief and others that has been done on this. So there's no hesitation for me on that one. Are we thinking about everything? Will the consulting firm, that's the question for me. Are they going to share or show us something that we didn't already see or hear? That's the question. And that's where, I just don't know that I feel that. I just don't know that I feel they're going to show us something different than what has already either come up as a question, been asked. I was talking to someone in Upper Marion, and just the brief, we haven't had a full conversation yet, but just a brief conversation. Their concern was that possibly we're trying to get rid of volunteers. No, I happen to know that's not what our chief wants to do. So, I have no doubt about that. That's not a question for me. So I say all that to say that, you know, I do, I still feel like I want to, I just want to have an opportunity to look more at the plan that you mentioned, because I really did not spend any time with that one, just simply because of the cost of it.
So let's table it to the next meeting.
So I'm fine with tabling it, but we all have to understand that part of the constraint here is the time frame. So obviously this is putting us 2 weeks further into that, and it makes it all that harder to make the decision based on the timing and the expense. The
You
other,
know, and one thing, if I can just add on, Beth, to my thought around a consulting thing.
45 days. They can
You know,
revise the
it's
budget.
something that even
Yeah,
if
yeah,
it's,
I didn't mean
if it comes up for you after, just say, we still haven't, you know, we're not going to vote on budget till budget time, but you know, if this comes up, and say we vote at the time and it's voting in favor of chief moving forward, a plan is always something to look at. It's always there to, you know, to have, to refer back to, you know, does it make probably more sense? Yeah, to look at it ahead of time if you feel like it's going to add value. And I think there would be huge value if this was something new we're doing. I just don't know where the value gets added. He's got great partners that he has reached out to, that he's floated the project to, that are already doing what we're trying to get to. And I don't know.
And we have to remember that what Carolyn gave us as a scope of work is staffing only with as is, which I think the 5 of us know as is really isn't a plan. Chief's plan or the phasing option are really the 2 things that we've talked about and looked at. And if it's for staffing only, we're spending, you know, $16,000 to $50,000 on a plan for staffing. We know it's 2. That's a consideration.
the reason I asked for staffing only is because based on what Chief Wigman said, right now with the 2 battalions, we know that we can make it work if the board would move forward with the expansion. Additionally, you know this community better than I do. There's not really a lot of bare land where we could say, like, in an ideal world, we would have 1 battalion. It would be better located so that the volunteers could currently get there and not have to traverse through 5 points or get across 309, but that's not our reality. Regionalization, as you said, is a long-term, that's way above our pay grade. That's something that's probably going to have to be generated by the county, as I believe Ms. Staub said, and sort of they take the lead on a discussion. And you're right, a lot of people don't want to give up their kingdoms. I also didn't ask them to address the equipment because we just bought a ladder truck, which has a 30-year life, and we have 2 engines on order, which have been on order. And fortunately, we got them in before the giant price hike, and Congress is now investigating those fire equipment companies because they think there might be an antitrust situation. Those are on order. So once they come in, you're looking at, again, another 25 years. So we won't need, because we're bringing in more staff, we don't need more equipment. Additionally, we're not, all 19 won't be working together. So the battalion, the bunk bay that is there now can adequately house the staffing that would come in. It's just a matter of really, all I need to know is how you want us to proceed. And that's why I really wasn't comfortable polling you separately when I knew you'd be meeting tonight. I thought this is, you know, again, to be transparent, to have a record of this meeting, you know, it's being streamed, it'll be, you know, recorded, it'll be on our YouTube channel. Anybody who wants to see a follow-up discussion, it was prominently put on the, you know, the agenda. It's not like it was under other business and hidden away. So, you know, people need to do their due diligence as well. You have spent time talking about this year. It was mentioned at the prior budget session, you know, in the fall that, you know, this was a concern. You've seen the reports, you all get the PSATS magazine, so you know it's not just unique to us, as you've all stated. All I really wanted tonight was just direction, so I know what I'm doing tomorrow morning. If you want to table it, as Sean said, we can certainly do that and give you the same information again. And we can also try to publicize that it's going to be discussed so that people, if they still have an interest, will come to that board meeting. We reached out to every HOA contact that we have, and only 2 HOAs responded and invited us to come speak. The town hall we held here so that it could be streamed as well as recorded. That's why we didn't have it at the rec center. We feel like we're doing everything we can do. It's been in our e-news. It's just a matter of now, what does the board want to do? Because now we are in September.
What was any of the two places that talked about travel and expenses, did they give you any ballpark on what that may cost?
No, I did not ask them
Okay,
for
I
that.
was just curious. And then Tanya, this is just directed to you. You mentioned that you like, or you were in favor more of, or any of the two, aspirant or municipal resources. Which part of municipal? The first one, the 25,000 or the 45? Or did you?
It was the 25,000.
It was a 25,000.
25?
It's the
Okay.
50-page management letter focused on staffing and volunteer career to career transition.
Okay.
Can I ask though, Carolyn, one thing that was missing from municipal resources was the time frame. Can we find out more, like when their implementation, does it say that? It's on the
60
summary
60
sheet I
days.
left you in front of you.
It
It
is
says
60
originally
days.
stated mid to
Okay.
late October they would start, but when I talked to him before I went on vacation last week, he said that they, if this is a urgent for the board, that he would put together a team and they would start the work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Now, he didn't say it would be, if I call him tomorrow morning, he's not going to have the team, but it wouldn't be mid to late October that they would be starting.
Okay.
I think the idea of tabling it is probably the best for you, for the board, gives you more time to look at it. The question now before you really comes down to, if you say, okay, no, we think we know what we want to do. What is it that you're actually going to provide? Is it the 19 firefighters on a 24/72 shift? If so, I've presented you as an option that can get you a $700,000 savings in the first year by going to a 24/48. So that's what I would like the board to be firm on, is what are the options? You're still kind of in options. It's just a question of whether you want to do the consultants or not. Okay, say you don't do the consultants, then what are you going to put before in your budget? That's what you needed to be deciding, because if you come out and say we're going to do the 19 with 24/72s, then you're probably going to get a lot of people up here. Why are you doing that when there's a cheaper option that provides the same coverage to the community?
So one of the things that, and Chief could probably speak better to this, there was conversation around 24/48 versus 24/72. He gave a very compelling argument at the meetings, I think all three of them, on why 24/72 made, just for the well-being, and Chief helped me out here, well-being, I say mind, body, and spirit
Right.
for the fighter, the folks that are out there doing this every day. And it just was healthier for them, number one. Number two, I'll share, so the 24/48, just me doing a little bit of digging on my own around it. One of the things that stood out for me that I learned that, in some cases you have where it's 24 on, but that 24, depending on if you're in the middle of something, just say a fire, and you can't leave. You've got to finish it out. And so in just conversation and just some reading I did online, a lot of reading I did online, it could turn into 30 hours or 35 hours or whatever the case may be. And so now you're eating into your first day off, and then possibly, is that something that happens all the time? Probably not.
But that would be a data that the consultants would go through. How many of those? If it's a 0.01%,
right,
it's an
it's a
exception.
percentage,
If you're going to
exactly.
build a schedule around meeting every exception, you're going to need more than 19 firefighters, because you're not going to knock off in the middle of a fire and change shifts. That's not going to happen.
Right. You can't.
And you're going to pay the overtime, and that's just part of the expectation as a firefighter. I've done hazmat calls for my company, and we would get up and go. And it wasn't like that was the end of the day. I'm sorry, guys, that's my 10 hours. No, it was the 24 hours. We were in a rail yard watching things, making sure. That's just the nature of the job. And that's why it is a difficult job, and it takes a special type of person to work it. And all the kudos to the people that do serve as firemen, policemen, ambulance, EMS. I mean, I would love to do it, but at my age, I probably would not be able to do it very effectively. And yeah, we do need to do something for the community, but I think the board has got to really look at it as, if you're going to say, okay, we're going to go forward, what are you going to actually propose out there? Because that's the next step and the next question. Because if you put the 19 and with the 24/72s out there, when we know there are fire companies out there that run 24/48s and work perfectly fine, people are going to go, why didn't you consider that? And if all you can say is it's a better well-being for them, $700,000 is not. Yeah, I could buy a whole lot of well-being for myself for $700,000, but I mean it's a balancing act. Public safety is always going to be a balancing act, and you do what you can. But the firefighters, if you lay out the schedule and people see it, and you look at the calls and when they are and what they are, I think that's where the transparency comes into play, and people will kind of look at it a little bit differently.
Madam Chair, if I may,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, one of the biggest impediments, the 2448, is the union will not agree to reopen the contract for 2448. So for me, that's, I mean, it's a bigger challenge, because if they do reopen it, they're going to want something of substance in return for that.
But
Right now
according
they have, excuse me, let me address the board. Right now they have committed that they would reopen the contract for 2026 and through 2028 for 2472, but they will not consider it for 2448. And under labor law, I can't force them to reopen the contract.
And my question would be, why do you have to open the contract when it specifically stipulates the township can set the work schedules?
You asking us that?
I'm asking the board. I mean, y'all brought up, it's like they won't open the contract. Why won't they? Because the contract specifically says the township reserves the right to set the work schedules.
Well, that I can't answer.
They would likely file a grievance if we arbitrarily changed it, which means that we'd have to go before.
It's not arbitrarily if it's voted through the board.
Well, that's your interpretation, sir. That's not our labor attorney's interpretation.
I
I mean, in
agree,
the past, our labor attorney has.
Hey, sir, this is an opportunity for comment.
I know, but
The board's had a lot of discussion tonight. Maybe if you bring up something new to the board, that just,
but I'm bringing it
about
up
if we-
because y'all are throwing it out. They won't open the contract. I'm like, why
Understood.
won't they open it? So go do your digging. I've done the digging through the contract.
How
Maybe
about
I'm misinterpreting it, and if so, great, then educate me on it. But that's how I read it.
How about if we let Chief answer the 2472 versus 2448 question? Why is that so important that you, in your plan, want 2472?
I put together a plan that I think is the optimal plan for my staff and my community. And that's what I did. I'm not going to put together a plan to make concessions. 24, if the board chooses to do something different, then of course I'll execute whatever the board chooses. If the board has any questions, I think I've already demonstrated that I'm happy to answer any questions. But 2472 is where most fire departments our size are moving to, because of the impact on employee mental health and well-being and firefighter recovery. The 2448 schedule is a schedule that we would have to open the contract to readjust salaries so we don't have to pay overtime. But the response you get from people who work the 2448s is, I always feel like I'm working and I'm never home. And when we're looking at the recruitment and retention of career firefighters, just like we look at the recruitment and retention of volunteer firefighters, which I've done for years and have tried several things to increase staffing on weekends. You know, the better schedule and the standard practice is all moving to 2472s. Now, we could go to a 7-day on, 3-week off schedule like they do on the West Coast. I mean, there's so many varieties in schedule out there. But when I put this plan together, I put together the optimal plan that I thought was the best for our community and our employees. Why 6 on a shift? Well, we have 7 on a shift now. So we were, looking at having an incident commander, and we have 5 firefighters working now. It has worked for us. It allows for our employees to continue to go to training, professional development. It ensures that we have 4 people working. If somebody takes off, then we don't have to worry about trying to find part-timers. I completely understand the thing about part-timers. It is very hard managing part-timers. Just on Friday, I had to bring a firefighter in on overtime because a part-timer canceled at the last minute. So there's not that consistency. But why 2472s? Because most of the firefighter standards coming out, and most of the best practices currently are the 2472. So I figure when I put the plan together, I should put a plan together that recognizes best practices and the trends so that we're not behind the 8 ball. Like if we go 2448s and then eventually the board wants to go to 2472, that's the board decision. But as a fire chief, I put together what I thought was the best decision for my people in the community. And we're seeing that most departments are moving to that 2472 schedule.
Do you think if we were on a 2448, we would have trouble hiring those 19? Because it's less desirable?
I think it's less desirable. I mean, as the gentleman said, our contract's very good. The board did a really nice job for our firefighters. There's no doubt about that. I think our culture is very attractive to people from other departments. But I think purely based on, as we're seeing, people don't really care about overtime anymore. And I understand throw money at the problem and you'll fix it, whether it's stipend or overtime. That's not been the experience. We found that, people really want their work-life balance. So I think that it would limit people to apply because they know that that schedule is pretty tough, that 2448 schedule. But it's doable. I mean, Norristown's doing it, right? Upper Moreland's doing it. So there are fire departments that are doing it. But when I put my plan together, I don't think I used the word Cadillac. I think it was somebody in the audience used the word Cadillac. But it's true. It's the best. It's the best plan for firefighters. Of course, that's what I'm going to represent and advocate for because I want the best for my people. They work so hard. They're great people, and they run into burning buildings. And we're not going to knock on EMS calls. We're not going to. If the police call us, we're coming.
Right.
I'm
And
not.
we want you to.
Right. And, electrical calls, I mean, that's an engine response. We take an engine to that. Whether that's a Pico line that's fallen in the street, I would imagine I'd have to look at the statistics. I didn't know that was going to come up, or I would have definitely had an answer for you. But I'm sure that last year's storms that we had is why our electrical calls are up. Because whenever there's a storm and Pico doesn't come out and there's a wire laying in the street, it's our firefighters who come out. So, but I can get you an answer on what the specific electrical calls were. I mean, that's no problem.
But I mean, how do you even answer, we have no control over when a fire is going to happen, when a storm.
Right. And I could say that our inspection program has significantly reduced our false alarm calls.
That's the thing.
But our other calls for service are way up. They're and we're trying to, but we do a lot of residential fire alarms. I mean, we could break that down for you. We do a lot of residential CO alarms. This weekend we had a vehicle rescue. We went to a building fire. So we can't predict, but our inspection program now, I mean, we're getting every business in town is to limit that strain on the system for nuisance calls.
And I think you mentioned about a fee if for false alarms. So I know I live in an HOA and with our clubhouse, so our alarm company charges a fee. I don't know that filters to the fire.
We do as well.
Oh, okay.
We only,
Because I know our fire.
and to be honest, and this, honesty, we only invoke that ordinance for 3 false alarms within a 12-month period if the person is not compliant. I mean, if it's a business that's having trouble getting their alarm company out, there are other ways to mitigate that through reduced speed responses than, having a poor business owner, like the mall, like we go to a lot of false alarms at the mall. I mean, we only invoke that citation if they're just not doing anything to try to mitigate that response. So.
Appreciate that. I'm sure the businesses do too.
Yeah, I mean, we work for the businesses. I mean, I want the fire inspection program not to be adversarial, which many times it is because what are you guys here to make money for the township? No, we're actually cost neutral. We've done a study over 2 years to prove that we're cost neutral, but I want it to be more educational. Like these are the way to keep your employees safe, and I think we're very successful at that. And if you choose to do a study, we're going to cooperate fully with the study. I'll get everything you want as soon as possible.
No doubt about that.
It's whatever you decide I'm going to do. We're going to do.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Well, when I think about and so I'm back to, I think I need additional time because when I think about the study, I don't know what a one pager is going to tell me that my chief hasn't already told me. So if we're going to do a study, then it's the larger one, which I then did not take the time to really look at because, and see all that it may involve. And I may still be a no if I feel that, all that information is already, we have it already in some form or fashion. If it's going to possibly show us something different than what we know, then I may see a value add there. But I don't know about just for a on staffing.
We could also check with the state because they provide free studies for municipal fire departments.
Well, we definitely won't get that.
But
within our
I
budget.
just and I know some of the chiefs who do it are very good chiefs. Chief Little's one, the deputy chief of Harrisburg. The only issue with that is I think it would be 12 months, but we could certainly make a phone call to them and see what the turnaround time would be for that. Norristown is currently doing one, and I think Upper Salford is currently doing one.
You said Norristown is doing one, but they're already full time, right?
Yeah, I think
They're just-
Chief O'Donnell is looking at expansion and
Okay.
more where to put a fire station. They have several fire companies in Norristown that are pretty close to each other. So I think he's looking at, but we can make that call.
For MRI, and maybe we can't answer this question, I don't know. In option 1, which is the less expensive option of the two, where you get a 50-page management letter focused on the staffing and volunteer transition, will they come and actually give a presentation with a summary, like an executive summary of the report?
He did not mention that in my phone call to him, but I can certainly find out tomorrow. I can ask him tomorrow, send him an email and ask him if that would include coming to the board and speaking. The only one who specifically mentioned it was the Center for Public Safety Management.
The Center for Public Safety Management said they would come.
Yes, they said 3 to 6 months, including any presentations with stakeholders.
Okay. When they said travel expenses, I wasn't sure, like how many times they planned to visit and what the purpose of those visits were, if one of them was including a presentation of the results.
In my discussion with him, we talked about like sort of a wide array of fire issues. So my feeling is if he had to come up to the community to do look at the battalions, to see where they were, to see what's in them. But I think a lot of what we talked about, the further we got into it, was really giving him as much data as possible. Obviously now, post-pandemic, we use virtual meetings like it's nobody's business. So it's really so much easier to deal with people than it was in the past when you're trying to coordinate in-person meetings. So, but I would certainly ask him if in that 25,000 would include coming to the Board of Supervisors and making his presentation to use, at a public meeting.
Thank you.
And it looks like they're, Center for Public Safety Management they're coming from DC. Municipal Resources, MRI is coming from Massachusetts. They're not coming from across the whole country.
Yes, the DC, they just completed a study for Upper Darby to help them find a chief. So they have worked in Pennsylvania. They do primarily work in the DC, Maryland area. In fact, when he was talking to me originally, and I said Montgomery Township, he thought Montgomery County, Maryland, and started referencing fire companies I never heard of. And I thought, no, we have a problem. But then when I explained, I said, I'm outside of Philadelphia. He says, oh, okay. And then he says, we just did Upper Darby's chief search. So, he's familiar with the area, and it would just matter of getting him the information that he needs. But to Chief Wigman's point, we will do whatever the board wants. So whether it's at tonight's meeting or in 2 weeks from tonight, and if any questions come up and you want more follow-up from these consultants, it gives us 2 weeks to get more information from them. We just need a decision tonight, one way or the other.
Okay, so we need a motion to defer.
Would be a motion to table to next
Table.
Board of Supervisors. That's what we want to do.
Okay, so we're gonna make a motion to table this conversation until our next meeting, just so that some additional review of the proposals and then any other questions that may come up for us, and to get some answers to a couple of things that we had. I'm going to make a motion to defer until next meeting.
Second.
Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.